It's a morning with Finn. We're going for a walk. And I thought, what the heck? Let's chat some business things. Today, we're going to talk about how to escape if you've built a business you hate. So, if you're just popping along in this journey for the first time, my name is Taryn Dubreuil. I own a company called Perfect Day Business Mentorship. We work with small service-based business owners who are stuck in that 8 to 10K range and just want more freedom built into their business. So the reason I tell you that is because over the last 17 years, I have built 4 small businesses to 6 and 7 figures. And I wanted to talk today about what happens when you build your business into something that you hate, because that is a very, very real, true scenario I've lived through probably twice now. Once for sure, twice. And this is something common that happens to a lot of small business owners is just, when you first start out, you build this business into something that you're just doing what you do because you're good at it and you love it. And you want to help more people and spread the word of whatever it is that you're doing. You have all these great intentions, but you don't really know how to run a business. You just know what to do with whatever it is that you do, and you do it really well. But owning a business that part got skipped somewhere in the mix. And that was me. So my first business, I owned a gym for 15 years. Big health and fitness nut, crazy about it. I had some family issues where my family members just were not taking great care of their health, and that left a standing impact on me just for that'll be forever. But right place, right time. And I opened a gym to try and help other people change their lives, because I'd seen just how badly, what happens when you don't take care of yourself. And so I wanted to change that for the people in my small community. Now, nobody taught me how to open a gym. Nobody taught me how to run a gym. I certainly didn't go to school to learn how to open a business and run a business. And even if I did, I'm not too sure that business school would have taught me what the lessons that I've had to learn over those 15 years, to be completely honest. And then that's how it went. Just started running this business, doing what I loved, and worked it into insane debt. $50,000 in debt. I hadn't paid myself in 8 years. I was doing everything, opening, closing, working all the hours. I had a team, but they all had their own full-time jobs. So this was just something that they liked to do out of a hobby and a passion, and that's fair. That's fair. As the years went on, that is unsustainable. And then the format to which I had built the model, I had just, it was so time-sucking. It was a time in exchange for money. And anytime you're in that scenario, time in exchange for money, there's a ceiling. And so the ceiling in that business, I hit it pretty quick. And I knew that it was not my retirement plan. But it sucked the time out of my life. And that part was really bothersome for me. I started that business because I wanted the freedom of time, the freedom of my money. I didn't want anyone else to say when I could or couldn't go on holidays, or when I could and couldn't work, what I could and couldn't make, what I could and couldn't accomplish. I didn't want somebody else to make those decisions for me. And yet here I was, an employee in my own business. I had basically created myself a job. And I know that as I tell that story, there's probably some of you who are listening to this right now, and you're thinking damn, that's me. I'm in that's where I am right now. And that is so common. So the very first thing I got to say is you are not alone. This happens probably to most small business owners, if not all of us, at one point in our entrepreneurial careers. So you're in that scenario. What do you do? How do you get out of this scenario? Okay. Well, the obvious is you could just up and quit, just call it quits, shut the doors, flip the sign to close, and just never turn it over, right? Nothing is stopping you from doing that. Maybe, obviously, you need the money and that's your lifestyle and whatever it is, but that's one way out, is just to shut her down. Not the logical decision, though. I got out of this position because I did two things. The first thing started with a perfect day plan, okay? I named my company Perfect Day Business Mentorship for a very specific reason. And what happens when you're a small business owner is you usually work forward, like this is where I am today, and I'm operating day by day, and I'm building my plan day by day moving forward instead of moving backwards. Now, here's what I mean by that. If we just stopped and just took a minute to figure out what it is that I actually want with my life, why am I building this business? What do I need this business to do for me? And if you just stopped and just worked through some of those questions, most of the time you would avoid a lot of the problems that you work yourself into when you get into a position that you don't like, that you've put yourself in your business, right? When you start building a business that you hate. And it's usually because we're moving forwards. We're operating day by day. We can't think past what's going to happen tomorrow or next week, never mind 2 or 3 years in the future. So this is what I call a perfect day plan. And this is one of the very first steps we do inside of the CEO Clubhouse with my clients. Being able to just take some space. So I usually say, like, take your dog, go out into the woods, take a notebook with you, or wherever like your quiet thinking space is. Go out with your notebook and start working through questions like, how much money do I actually need to make? That's actually a really important question for an enormous amount of reasons. Not just to make sure that you're actually making money and you're making the amount of money that you need. That helps you frame things like, how do I build my offer? What should my offer look like? What should I price it at? Like just understanding how much money that you need and want. Those are two very different things, but they're impactful for numerous amounts of reasons, okay? So like, how much money do I need to make? How much time do I want? What time am I going to wake up in the day? What time am I going to go to bed at night? What am I going to do in the morning? What are some of the very first things that I cover? Do I get out of bed, grab a coffee and like go sit down and work because that's an optimal time for me to work? Or do I want like a slow morning where maybe I have coffee with my spouse in bed, something like that. Being able to draw out what you want that morning, that afternoon, and that evening to look like helps you think about like your time. It helps you think about the format that you actually deliver your service. And I'm going to put an asterisk after this, and I'm going to come back to this because this is probably the part that was sobering for me when I was stuck in that position inside my first business. You want to go through things like, how many team members do I need? Do I actually want a team? What do I want that team to look like? Are they full-time people, part-time people, contracting, overseas? Like, where do I need to find these people? And what are these people going to do? Where do I need them best in my business? Which brings me to, what do you actually want to do in your business? Because maybe you've put yourself into positions doing things that you don't actually love and like just sucks your energy and is counterproductive to the ample reasons why you started your business. So things to consider. This perfect day plan is quite extensive. There's a whole long list of questions to work through just to make sure that you're starting from the beginning and really just painting as clear of a picture as possible. This is the stuff that I've told you right now is just kind of like surface level. But this is an important step because it basically lays the groundwork so that every decision that happens in your business is based off that perfect day plan. It's, okay, if I'm going to sit down and like look at my offer, look at my packages, look at my pricing, well, I want to look at, is it actually producing the amount of money that I need? And if not, is it because of how I put it together? Do I need more volume of clients, or do I want to keep my volume of clients low and maybe make my pricing a little bit higher? Is it sucking your time in ways that you don't want it? Maybe you're offering your services in a one-to-one manner when really you like operate best in a large environment, like a big group environment, depending on how your service is given. Maybe you don't even want to be boots on the floor, and maybe you do want to be boots on the floor. So every decision that happens in your business needs to be filtered through your perfect day plan. When you don't have one of these perfect day plans, when you don't have an idea of what the future, what the purpose, the sole purpose of why you created your business, you don't have something like that to guide you, then you're basically just shooting from the hip every single time. You're thinking to yourself, well, this sounds good, so I'm going to do this, or, this might be a good idea, so let's try this. If it works out and it traps you in a position where you don't want to be, you actually have a bigger headache for yourself down the road And that's a lot harder to course correct. The second thing to understand is that, once you have your perfect day plan and you're starting to build your decisions through that filter, the second thing to understand is that nothing is set in stone. The situation you might be in right now might not be ideal. You might have made some decisions along the way that sent you astray and put you on the wrong course, moving left when you should have turned right. And it might feel like a super deep hole that you're in right now. But understand that nothing is set in stone. And I think that is a mistake that I made when I was younger, is just thinking that I've already done this. There's people going through my system in this manner. The business is set up like this. Like, if I change things, it's going to completely disrupt everything. And that's simply not true. Yes, if you just stand up, toss the table upside down and walk out of the building, that's going to disrupt some things. But nothing is set in stone completely. There is always ways out. And one of the best ways to navigate those scenarios is just to have somebody to guide you. So I'm glad during that time in my business, I had somebody that, a mentor that was like, do this on this timeline. And that's how we'll get through this transition successfully. And it did, it worked. So if you don't have that person to guide you, that's something that I strongly recommend, because a lot of the time small business owners are going to make decisions based on their gut, what they think is going on or what they think is the right thing to do. And that's never a great way to make decisions from your gut or what you think is the right thing to do. It's always the best way to make decisions with objective measurements, to actually have a thought out, step-by-step plan. So that's my second recommendation, is make sure you have that filter.
Sure.
I guess as I think through this scenario, those are kind of the two main biggest mistakes that I made. And I'm going to call myself as a kid, because I was just simply too young, too naive, a little too dumb, and too egotistical to go and find the information that I needed, and instead just thought that I could figure it out on my own. But 8 years later, after having not paid myself, that didn't really leave me in a great position of thinking that I know what I'm doing. So always have a perfect day plan. Understand the reasons why you started your business. What was the whole point? What are you doing this for? What's the greater picture, the bigger picture? And operate backwards from that picture with every decision that you make. Every decision. I cannot stress that enough. And if you're not confident in doing this yourself, or you want that filter and that step-by-step process, find yourself a mentor. Coincidentally, that's what we do inside the CEO Clubhouse. So if that's you and you want some help looking through your scenario, just DM me 99 on Instagram, and I'll know exactly what you're talking about. All right, fam. Me and Finn are going to hang out. This is fun, kind of chatting. I don't know if I like this format, but if you do, just comment below and just let me know that you enjoyed going for walks with my dog and I. And I'll maybe do this more often. Cheers.